Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us. I know that you are learning a lot and I appreciate your time. Our next guest today is Jennifer Kok. Jennifer is the founder of the Next Wave Business Coaching, where she's an advocate for small businesses. She helps small business owners who are in growth mode with strategy and gaining clarity, whilst also helping them develop a mindset to build a business that will survive and thrive for years to come. Her 20 years of owning a brick and mortar business, along with her experience in developing a national brand, has positioned her to help other entrepreneurs reach their dreams whilst owning a business that doesn't own them. And today she's going to walk us through attracting and retaining employees in today's world. Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Deanna. It's so nice to be here.
The floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you. So one of my passions is being a business coach for business freedom. And when we talk about business freedom, we really mean owning a business that doesn't own you. And that can be challenging. It takes a lot of different elements. Mindset is one of them, learning to trust and let go. But the biggest piece is staffing, is your employees, is your team. And I know coming off of the pandemic, one of the top conversations I have over and over and over with all these small business owners is, how do I find the right people? How do I attract who I need to develop a team so that I can get the business freedom that I want? So what I like to kind of talk about is, what do today's employees really want? You know, there's been a shift. I owned a business for 20 years, and the way I hired 10 years ago wouldn't work today. But a lot of us find ourselves going back to our patterns, our habits, you know, because that's what we know, that's what we do. You know, so I know all of us have heard about the Great Resignation. You know, the numbers are astounding, how many people have left their jobs. And there's a lot of reasons why they chose to leave their job. But really, what's happened is what I'd like to call, they now call the Great Reevaluation. People chose not to live to work. They want to, work to live. You know, before we'd go to jobs so that we could live. Now they want to live to work. They want something with purpose. They want something with passion. After going through the pandemic for a couple of years, just getting a job for a paycheck, it's not about the money anymore. So what do we do as business owners? So I think it's important to really understand the mindset of where employees are today. And one of the top things that employees say they want is appreciation. In fact, 79% of employees left their job because of lack of appreciation. And when you think about appreciation, you know, that is something as a small business owner, as a manager, that you can do for free. You know, it doesn't cost a lot to appreciate an employee. Another attribute that employees want today is recognition. So much so that the latest statistics said that 60% of today's employees choose recognition over more money. So when you look at those two factors, appreciation and recognition, you know, appreciation is more internal. It's how can you fill the bucket of your employee? And there's lots of different things you can do, such as, you know, I thank you for doing that today. And I always say, try to think about the little tasks. I think as managers and owners, we're really good at focusing on the big picture, on the big task, on the big project. Ooh, we hit that goal. Great job, everyone. But what about day to day? You know, what are your employees doing every day? And is there something there that you can just say, you know what, I really appreciate that you do that. This place wouldn't run as well without you doing X, Y, Z. You know, always kind of share the why. I think we're a culture of, why is that happening? Or why do I need to do this, right? And then when it comes to recognition is more about the external, about what other people see. And I'm not saying we need to be, passing out awards for everything that everybody does, but you know, we have turned into a society where we do get participation awards. Sadly, it's not always about what you achieve. It's just about showing up. So just recognizing them as a team is a good thing as a small business owner that you can do. Another thing that employees want is they want to learn new things. There's been this huge shift. So we've seen a lot of people quit their jobs because they weren't happy there and they want to go do something, but they want to do something that they can, you know, enjoy doing or want to learn. So as a small business owner, what are you willing to train? You know, look at your open positions today and ask yourself, is there something out there that I'm willing to train if I found the right person with the right soft skills? And, soft skills are things like communication, problem solving, attitude. It's always a lot easier to teach somebody something who has a really good attitude versus trying to change somebody's attitude. So I guess the point is, as a small business owner, when you're looking to develop that staff, you have to be a little more open-minded. What are you willing to train? What soft skills would be a good fit for you? And then transparency has become huge. 96% of today's employees say they want transparency. And what does that mean? That means they want to understand the big picture. So my history, I owned a brick and mortar bakery for 20 years. And my employee range was anywhere from high school student to middle age. I had all different ages, all different backgrounds, beliefs, everything. And I made the mistake of thinking that my part-timers, a lot of my employees were part-timers, they didn't really care what was going on in the business. I made the mistake of thinking they were just showing up for that paycheck so that they could go get their Starbucks, fill their gas tank, and go out to lunch. And I was wrong. And so what I ended up doing is implementing what I called got a minute meetings. Now, I know none of us want another meeting, but what we did is it was very informal. And we would stand around, we had a lot of those tall stainless steel bakery tables. And once a week, we would be intentional about standing around the table, and I would share with them, this is what to expect for this week, or we have a big order coming up, or this is our focus for the month. And we would come up with a word. This is our word of the week. Maybe it's character, maybe it's teamwork. And then we would go around and everybody would state kind of where they're at with their particular task or project. And then I would ask them, where do you need support? And so just by doing that, it made everybody feel like they were part of the big picture. They all kind of got behind me. Instead of me pulling them along, they wanted to follow so that we could achieve our goals and get to our, hit our results for the week. And then what I also loved about it is this camaraderie started happening, this teamwork started happening. And so if somebody said, well, I'm a little behind over here in this part of the task, somebody else would be like, oh, I got some extra hours I can help you with. So the point is, transparency is key. Don't feel like just because maybe you hire a teenager or somebody younger or someone who's not there for long term that they don't care, because they do. Everybody wants to know, where's the ship headed? And then the other big thing that we're hearing a lot about is culture and values. And 88% of today's employees state that they will choose a place to work based on their values. They want their values to match that of the employer or align with the employer. Values are your beliefs, your philosophies, and culture is kind of like the personality, the character of the business. And here's the thing. We all have one. Every business has values and culture, but until today, we probably didn't label them. We didn't start our businesses out with this culture mission statement because we were so busy just building a business. But today's employees are asking you to label that. So what does that mean for you? I often say that I think a lot of buzzwords came out of the pandemic, right? And I think a lot of us feel that culture is one of those, that, oh, this is just here for now, but gone tomorrow. And I don't believe that. I believe it's here to stay. And I think this transition and what we want out of our work and out of our day, that is here to stay. And so culture is a big one. And this is not something that you're going to just be like, okay, I wrote a culture mission statement, check the box and off I go. It starts internally and it starts with the management. And it requires you to think about, what are those key values that I want in my business that reflect who I am as a small business owner and what I want the community to see about my business. For me, I owned a bakery. So a bakery, you need creative people. You need people who are visionary. You need genuine people. You need a team. You need people who want a team. And it takes looking for those attributes, those characteristics in an employee to really fit into our business so that they stay. Because, it takes a lot of effort to attract the right person. It takes even more effort, to get them to retain. So these are some things I just want you to think about as a small business owner. And, I had somebody say to me, okay, so if I hire for values and culture, I'm going to have all these robots. I'm going to have all these little minions in the back of my business. And no, that's not true. I have 3 children, same mother, father, same household. My husband and I have been married for 31 years. Nothing's changed there. And I can tell you all 3 children are very different. So that doesn't mean you're looking for little robots in your business. It just means that everyone's going to fit. So I think, as you start thinking about culture, I know that can feel very overwhelming. I know you're really busy, and most likely right now you're short-staffed, because most small business owners are. So just start small, right? Be aware of it. Think about your values. Think about those 3 to 5 words. And then how can you incorporate that in your help wanted ad? How can you incorporate it in your day-to-day decisions? And how can you share that with not only your employees, but also your customers? That really is who you are. And in today's world too, customers are choosing to do business with you based on your values as well, especially for small businesses. So the last tip I kind of have for attracting and retaining is, understand what the employees want, really understand your values and your culture. And then when you go to marketplace to look for these employees, use some of those words in your job ad. I see over and over, as small businesses, we post these help wanted ads, and it's all about us. It's the title that you're looking for. It's the job duties that they're required to do. It's all about your business and what you're trying to fill. What if you flipped that script and made it about the employee, made it about the experience they're going to have working for you, how you go about appreciating and sharing and showing up for your employees, and what your values and culture are, because that's what they're looking for. So you have to get a little creative when it comes to that help wanted, that job ad, because they're going to gloss over something that's not about them. We're a society that's all about me, right? So why not use that to your advantage when you post your job ad? And there's one other piece that's been kind of interesting that's come out of this too, is a lot of people left their jobs, they retired early. So they took early retirement. Well, what happens when you retire early? You find out that, I might be kind of bored, or you also find out, this costs a lot of money. And so there's this phenomenon of the side gig, the side hustle. They say that the latest statistic is 64% of Americans have a side hustle. Well, a side hustle is something that's like 2 to 3 hours a week or a month, something they're excited about, passionate about. Well, this is a great pool of people to fill some of your open positions. Do you have an open position? Let's say you own a restaurant and you need someone to help prep food in the back. There might be somebody out there that just wants to learn some new culinary skills and is willing to give you 3-4 hours a week. Are you willing to do that? And I know it takes a little bit more work on the business owner. I understand that, but think about the value of the employee that you're going to get. You're going to get somebody dedicated, somebody who's going to show up when they say they're going to show up, and probably somebody a little more mature. So I love that idea. I know it's a little out of the box thinking, but just something I kind of wanted to toss out there for you to think about in your own business.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing this with us. I truly believe this is essential for the success of any business. And I've been through many struggles to hire my team, to find the right people, and also in the corporate world, when something doesn't work within the team, it always blows apart. There is always an issue that cannot be maybe overcome, and there are all these emotions coming up. So what I would like to ask you is, what if we attract the wrong people, or the people who are not aligned with our mission, our vision, our values? How can we deal with that?
That's going to happen. I mean, that's just nature, right? And that doesn't mean that's a bad fit. It just might mean it might not be a long-term fit. So I think even though they might not quite align, you still have to give them a chance, right? And it really just comes down to internally, how are you operating as a small business owner? And as you start to maybe change the culture a little bit inside, you're going to notice maybe who needs a little bit more training or a little more conversation. And I think it's really, back to that transparency, being open, just being open with your employees. What is it that you need today? How can I support you? What do you like about working here? What are some areas that we could do better as management? Be vulnerable. and ask those hard questions, because it's amazing. They're the ones that are in the trenches every day. It's amazing what's going to come out when you allow yourself to go there.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What I would like to also ask you is about what you mentioned previously, the values and the mission that we should incorporate it in our ads. But I know that especially when we are starting as small business owners, maybe we don't really know what is our mission. We don't know what are our values. We are discovering ourselves, and sometimes we don't even know what we want. What would be your advice? Is there a way where we could start right away and not wait until the business grows? Is there a framework that we could apply?
It's funny because we're all evolving, right? So my values back when I started my business in 1998, which I'm dating myself now, are very different than they are today. And that's okay. Just as starting a new business, your business is going to evolve through the stages as well. So you're right. There's a lot of learning about yourself, you kind of self-evaluation. But I would say the first step is asking yourself why you chose to go into business in the first place. And journal about it and think about it and really just kind of dive deep and really just ask yourself, why did I choose to do this? Because we know owning a business it's not all, roses there. It's hard work. And what always propels us through that hard work is our why, is our purpose, is our belief. So I would encourage starting there and look for those key words that pop out at you. Is it freedom? Is it family? Is it you found a product or something that's going to solve a problem for somebody? Well, what problem is it solving and how is it solving that problem? When you start diving deep and uncovering those, peel away the layers, I think you're going to start seeing some common threads, and then start there. Look for 3 words. Look for 3 common words that pop up a lot when you're writing about what you want to do, why you want to do it, and how you're going to do it. And then ask yourself, every decision you make, do they align with one of those 3 words? So, what I mean by that, for me, faith is a big proponent of my current business. So when I'm making decisions, if they don't align with my faith, then that's not a good decision. And so when you start leading your business like that, you start creating values and start creating a culture without realizing you're doing it. So that's why just being aware and being, intentional is going to be the big piece of this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing it with us. I know that you have a lot of experience. I don't even come close to your experience. So I am really curious about everything you went through in these 20 years, because I believe as small businesses, we are sometimes struggling. And you mentioned that it's not always easy. And I know that many small business owners choose this path because they want freedom. This was also my case. Mm-hmm. And then we realized that this is not really freedom. There is a lot of work. We have to do everything on our own. We have to learn to understand everything. And what I always say is that we need support. We need that team who can help us out. And this is also your experience. And what I would like to ask you, would you advise small businesses to hire that team right away, or to wait for a few years before having that team in place?
It's interesting. So my story, I started my business and 2 days later delivered my second baby.
Wow.
That was not in the plan. My business opened up later than I thought it would, and my baby arrived earlier than she was supposed to. Thankfully, she was healthy. But you know what this forced me to do? This forced me to surround myself with a team. I could not be the doer of all things. And yes, from a cash flow standpoint, that can be hard. It can strap you a little bit from a cash flow standpoint. But what it did long term is it allowed me to create a business that I grew for 20 years. I had a team around me. And so I was able to work on the business, not in the business. Now that is a very extreme situation. So I believe it really depends on your industry and it depends on your cash flow. But I do believe that you kind of have to experience all the things of your business. You have to kind of be the doer of all things for a little while. The problem that I see over and over is that we get stuck there. And we get stuck there because we're afraid to spend the money, or we are afraid to delegate. It's our baby. We don't want to let it, we don't want to let somebody else watch the baby. What if they don't do it as well as we're going to do it? All these things come out. And that's where the mindset comes in of being an entrepreneur. So my advice is don't get stuck being the doer of all things. And it really, if you own a brick and mortar retail, you're going to need employees right away. If you do more of a business like what we're doing, a service business online, it can take, you can give yourself a little bit of grace before you start adding. But I say, try to anticipate the next step. What's coming in the next 6 months for you? And what are you going to need to support that? Because a lot of times we wait for the growth and then we run around like crazy trying to find the right people to fill it. So if you can start to kind of plan and anticipate for growth and start slowly adding that team of people, that's not only going to help with cash flow, but it's going to help you grow faster and grow smarter so that you don't make quick decisions that usually end up costing us a lot of money. And sometimes you have to lean in. You have to, if you have to create that plan and have that vision, and sometimes you have to lean in, and that means hiring somebody to help you, to support you so that you can get there.
Yes.
I think another big phenomenon with business owners is we burn out. Sadly, 50% of businesses will fail in the first 5 years. And a lot of that reason is they quit. And we quit because we burn out, because we're doing all the things. So be aware of that. Have some boundaries, maybe have some markers like, okay, once I get to this part of my business, I'm going to hire this first. And don't be in like what I call a scarcity mindset. Think about, what if I do add this person, how much faster I can grow.
I love that. I really love that. And whilst you were talking, this reminded me, I was actually the opposite. So I didn't want to do everything on my own since the beginning. And I remember people telling me, no, Diana, but you have to do this because, okay, now you have your hands on, you know better what you want. And I'm like, no, I want to delegate as much as possible. I don't want to get burned out. And also because I believe that there are people out there who have more experience and more expertise than I would have. I believe it would take me years to learn, I don't know, sales or certain parts of marketing. I understand the big picture. I can lead the people, the team, but I cannot do everything on my own. And this is something I think that people don't want to accept. As you mentioned, even after several years, they, as you mentioned, exactly as you mentioned, that they don't want to delegate, don't want to give it up. My way of thinking is rather that I want freedom. This is my aim, and this is where I am taking all the decisions. Do you think that there is something else we should incorporate maybe in our daily lives, in our daily thinking, in order to take those decisions slowly, especially for those who don't want to give up right away? Maybe it's a big change for them and maybe they cannot accept it. Is there something we could apply?
Well, I mean, what you said is business ownership, and I love that. And I'll never forget the time that somebody said to me, well, you bought yourself a job. Nobody wants to buy themselves a job, because really the ultimate goal of owning a business is to create a legacy for your family or to sell it, and to create that freedom that we want. And so when we look at bringing on people, which I love that you were vulnerable and transparent and said, you know what, I don't want to do all these things and I'm not good at them. And I always say, hire somebody smarter than you. Check your ego at the door. If you want your business to thrive, hire somebody smarter than you that knows that better. And I totally agree with that. And so you really have to ask yourself, what is holding you back from hiring that person? And this comes to internal mindset work. So spend some time, every day I always say, spend some time thinking about your business, not in your business. And so is that first thing in the morning? Ask yourself those questions. What is holding me back from hiring this person? Where is the fear? Because usually it's a fear. And it might be a fear of, I don't know how to train them, or a fear of they're not going to do it as well as I'm going to do it. Or how can I make sure they perform the way they're supposed to, all those things. Nobody wants a micromanager, right?
Yes.
So for some reason, there's something internally holding you back. And the only way you're going to expose that is spending some time with yourself and really just kind of thinking it through and just journaling about it is what I would recommend. And then go slow. So one of the first things I have my clients do is track their time. And I know that sounds really tedious and boring. And I know a lot of times they look at me and think, oh, are you kidding me? But what comes out of that is a big awareness of where you're spending your time. So when you start seeing, oh, wow, I spend a lot of time on billing, or I spend a lot of time on social media, or a lot of time doing the same repetitive action over and over, that is a great place to start. Ask yourself, can I automate this? Or who can I bring in on my team that can take that task away from me? So that's a practical way to start thinking about who to hire first. And then the other avenue is just really coming down to what's holding you back.
That's very deep. And I would even dare to say complicated to put in place. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing it with us. What I would like to ask you last is if you can tell us if you have any examples from your life experience about how we can reward, how we can recognize their work, and how can we make them feel like that reward is something big.
Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of times people really, it's about the small things, right? You'll even hear that in a marriage, like it's all about the little things. And I think sometimes we overlook the little things and, set goals for you and your team, but then break those goals down into something that's really attainable and that you can see. A lot of times we do these big 1-year visions. I like to drill them down into 90 days, 30 days, weekly, and recognizing somebody is really just, whatever your personality is. You can celebrate on Fridays with pizza if you're all in the same office, or sending them a small gift card, or just a handwritten note of thanks. There's lots of different ways to recognize people, and there's lots of different ways to reward people. And I think we're in this culture of almost kind of gamification you're hearing a lot of. And so maybe striving to create short-term rewards, which can be just shout outs to the team, like, hey, great job on, to Jimmy, he did this today, whatever it is. So you need to decide what those are as the business owner, and what motivates your team, and also what is your personality. All of that has to come out. For us, when I owned a bakery, it was food. Everyone loved food, but we were together physically in the same building, right? So we would have monthly potlucks, and we would have different things, and I would buy them lunch once a month when we hit certain goals. So it really just depends on how you're operating. If you're all in separate offices and all working from home, it's going to have to be something a little more, via a Zoom meeting or whatever. So you really have to just look at the way you're operating and how you can reach your people. But I would say do it more often. Go for the smaller little nuggets more often. The frequency is important.
Yes. I love that. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing everything with us. I feel like it's opening my mind, and I am getting all these ideas about what else could I do to improve also my own behavior. Thank you once again for sharing that with us. I would like to close today by asking you, who are you serving and how can people contact you if they want to work with you?
So I service small business owners. They usually have about 20 or less employees. And they're somewhere in their journey, they usually have already started their businesses, and most of them are starting to grow quickly. Because I can help you. I know business ownership can be lonely. And so my goal is to come along and help you, journey with you, so that you can reach your goals and, grow faster, grow smarter, and avoid some of the mistakes I made in my 20 years that can be very costly. You can find out more information about my services. I have a couple different packages, and that's at nextwavebusinesscoaching.com. And I also have a free guide on how to hire fast and quick, which will really kind of dive deep into some of the things I talked about today, and just maybe give you some creative nuggets. And you can find that as well as a free resource on my website.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you once again for being with me. I know that I said a lot of thank you today, but I am really grateful and honored to have you here. I know that you are sharing this with your open heart, and this really helps everyone to understand what to do next. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our time today. I appreciate you having me on.